Taylor.
And I'm Jenna Morton, and on this episode we have a guest with us who is new to the show, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Jennifer Smith.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. I'm sorry I'm interrupting.
No. I'm so excited because I think this may be one of the first times where we've ended up with a guest on the show simply because you listened to the show and reached out and were like, you guys talked about getting in touch with people and meeting new people, and I'd love to meet. And we did, and we talked for ages. And we're like, yep, now we need to tell everyone else what we talked about.
Perfect, because I wasn't there. So
I know, yeah.
I know, like we could have just kept going.
Oh,
I think we had to cut each other off. We were just like, okay, we've got stuff we got to do today. Awesome. Well, let's get into it then.
Yeah. Well, what we kind of started talking about, and a part of the reason you reached out was you are kind of in a new phase of life.
I am.
And you're sharing very publicly about it.
Yes.
And it's really kind of fascinating. I think a lot of people would love to hear your story.
Well, it's funny that you say that because a lot of times I'm just like, oh, I'm just, this middle-aged woman who doesn't have a lot to share. My kids are older now. And then I was just like, I just have to talk about it because there could be other people who are doing the same thing, So yeah, I'm 46 years old. My kids are almost 27 and 23. I know.
Quick math, and I'm horrible at math.
I was young. And back in the day, you do the things that you need to do when the kids are little, and you just you go and you go and you go. And it was about stability and making sure that I provided for them as best I could in a way that was very stable for us. And now that they're out of the house, and I mean, I'm not new to entrepreneurship. I have had my own photography business for a number of years, but something was just not doing it for me. Mm-hmm. And so I left a very secure 8-to-4 government job and thought, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be in people's lives more. Because throughout photography, I have clients who I've had for 15, 16 years where I meet them and we do, an engagement shoot and then a wedding and then maternity and babies and family. And it was just such a huge part of their lives that I was involved in. And I've built these relationships with them. And I thought, what else could I possibly do that would be another event in their life? And that's when real estate kind of came up. And I was like, yeah, I think this is awesome. And I don't know if you call me old school or what it is, but I'm not about the transactions. I'm about, and maybe that'll be to my demise, I don't know, because, I guess maybe you're supposed to worry about that stuff, but I want to have relationships with people and I want to talk to people. And I use social media to just have my face out there, but I'm hoping that will garner relationships that I can have in the community. And so when I saw that, it just sparked something in me and I was frantic. Like I said, I think I replied to your blog post as an email thinking that I was excited, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's a comment. And then I just kept searching it. I went onto Facebook and then I went to your website and I just started emailing because it just really hit home to me. Wanting to have conversations and being part of something again and being part of that community. And so yeah, that's where I found you. And then we met and we talked and we talked and we talked.
We had a great afternoon.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So yeah, so that's kind of where I am right now. Just trying to do something new and different and meet new people and build a community. Whether that be, through events that we're trying to do at least once a month and just to get people out and walking. Even if it's just, hey, I'm walking the dogs. Or I'm going for a walk in, Riverview at the Mill Creek Park or Mill Creek Center there. So join us, something like that, just to get out and talk to people again, because I feel like we're really missing that. We spend so much time on our phones for those 8 seconds that keeps you hooked, and our brains just can't. We've lost that. We've lost even writing. I don't know, like you write with a pen and your hand gets cramped now. Yep. And we've lost that whole back and forth, and I miss that. So,
and I think, I've had a few conversations with people around that lately, and this idea that, people are really, especially I think now that people are moving around again after the pandemic early years, that really seeking out those real relationships, those things that help them feel connected to the place where they are. Mm-hmm. And you can't just recreate that on social media. You can start it there,
Yes,
like we did, but you have to take that next step, and you have to have, the courage to say, yeah, I'll meet this person I've never met before at a public coffee spot. Why not?
yeah,
That's, it's a public space. You can go do it. And then, like you say, make these like, hey, I'm going to be in this place at this time if someone wants to come chat.
because I'm going anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, so that's how I feel about it. And I think that, like you said, I think people are craving that again. We're craving that connection, that human connection again, and we're craving a little bit of longer form content. I know for myself, it's a huge thing for me when I'm in the car and I throw on a podcast. And I listen and I get some insights and I have a good laugh or have a good cry or, whatever it is. And you learn something and you're investing in that stuff. And that's kind of where I want to go with it. So
I actually think that is exactly why podcasts have taken off so much, is people are craving the human interaction. And that's what you're getting. And like, when radio shows first started way back in the day, when radio was the first thing out, people would sit around the radio and get engulfed in these stories because that was the human interaction that they had. But it's also a chance to relax and learn or educate and what have you. So I think they're a really great medium to start that opening dialogue, which is, we've been doing it since before it was cool, because we're OG now. Now that we're 200 episodes and 5 years in. But it's true though, and I know for us starting the show, it has given us this chance to open the conversation and open dialogue, and for us to meet friends that we would have never, like I know I certainly would have never met 95% of these people that we've had conversations with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then, and then that snowballs, right? And those people, meet in real life and they're like, oh, you were a guest on the podcast too. Or, oh, I know this about you because you shared on the podcast. And these relationships can start to form. And it's really fantastic. I'd like to go back a little bit to talking about your career journey.
Yes.
Because I think, when we had coffee, we talked a lot about how people find their ways and their different pathways, and why it's important for you to talk about the fact that you've made these changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And even to go back a little further than that, and it's funny because when we had talked about that, about going back, and the fact that I'm on social media a lot and I try to have conversations, like good conversations, and I seem to be attracting, which is what I wanted. I want to attract, I don't want to search out or go after them. I want people to be attracted to me for me, and then obviously when that happens, you've already got something in common, right? And so what I started off with and what's been attracted to my business is first-time home buyers. It seems to kind of be my little niche now. And it brings me back to a place where I was when I was 19 years old and I bought my first house. And I actually found my written copy of my purchase and sale. I bought my first house in Pine Tree Mini Homes for $45,000. And that is what kind of got me moving along my path in this. So I've always been interested in this industry. I just didn't know at that time with small kids, I just couldn't imagine having to, not have that stable bi-weekly paycheck come in. But that was really important to me. And I have these incredible clients who I know what they're going through because I went through it. When you don't know the answers to questions and you don't know who to contact and everything is just overwhelming. And I believe in it so much that it's something that I spend a lot of time with people on because it's so important to me. And I've had incredible, incredible conversations with young women and young couples who are starting out. And I see myself in them, and I just have so much, I just appreciate what they're doing so much, and I'm so excited for them because I believe in it so much, and I believe in home ownership. And I know that for me that was really important. It provided me, and I felt it provided the kids with a sense of stability. And I also know that it's not always attainable right away. So I try to help people get to, if you have to pay down debts, you can get your credit score up, or if you have to, tips on saving money and how to budget. And those are all things that I did to the penny. Like I followed my budget to the penny. And if I had something that was not in my budget and I was gonna go over, it had to go back on the shelf. But then the next time I sold my house and the next one I bought, I just kept rolling that over and over to get to the point where I am today, which is, debt-free. And other than I do have my mortgage, it's very small, but nothing else. And I've been there and I've done it, and I know it's hard, but I also know and believe that people can do it. And so I think that's the message that I try to convey. And I think that comes out a lot in my social media. And then I have these great conversations. You can't do all of that on social media, so I try to just give a snippet of it, and then someone will reach out to me. And I'm like, oh, yes, let me talk to you. Let me try and help, because it's wonderful. And it really gives me joy and hope. And I have, like I said, my 27, almost 27, this is the first generation where we're seeing people say, I'll never own a home. Mm-hmm. And he's 26 years old going on 27, and I say, no. We're going to figure it out, because this is something that I believe in. And I said, there's pride in that, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with renting. I had to do it. And maybe you love it and you don't want to buy a home, but for those who do, I think that there's ways to do it. And I hope that through my journey and expressing that and talking about it, that I can really help others.
And I think in having those conversations and making them accessible, because of the past couple of years with how the market was, this is why your son is saying, I'll never be able to own a home, because it went bonkers, and houses, Riverview, Moncton, Dieppe, the whole province were going for far more than they were worth. And now that's obviously died off, but it's still leaving a lot of people, I don't want to say with a bad taste in their mouth, but I think for a lot of young people, it was a scary moment.
Yeah. And the thing is that I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but geez, sometimes I think I'm in this industry, like I'm part of this, because I have always bought and sold where if you made $1,000, you are happy. And now it's like, if you don't make $50,000 on the sale of your house, you're angry about it. And so I'm sometimes like, am I in the right industry here? Because I struggle with that. Because as a province, and especially as a city, there are a lot of people who don't have that income that can go through that stress test of getting a mortgage. And I know that they want it so badly. Like I said, I'm working with a few people right now who just want it so badly, and I can only imagine that feeling that they have and that stress that they have. So, yeah, so sometimes I'm just like, it's crazy. Yeah. Like the prices are still, so I totally understand, and I just hope that there are conversations that I have with people that really help them kind of push through that.
Well, and I think that those are important conversations to have as a community too.
Yes.
Who is it that we want to have in homes in this community, and whether they are single dwelling or apartments and condos, and like, what is it that we as a community want to be, and how are we helping each other get to those places? If we are just all looking for profit, what kind of community are we going to build with that? And I think there's not enough people on all sides, not just realtors, but in every aspect of the conversation talking about that. And the home, people who own homes who are going to sell them, people who are looking to buy, it's so important to actually have those deeper conversations about what does it mean to be in real estate.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes when I have these conversations with buyers who reach out to me, and I say, look, my business is not based, I don't think about the transaction, and there's kind of a pause. And I say, I know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I believe that there is much more. The more you give, the more you get back. And there's no gatekeeping for me. I don't keep anything from anyone that has any questions for me. I'm as honest as I possibly can. If I don't have an answer for you, I try to get it. I just think that it's really important to have those conversations, and because those conversations will lead to maybe changing somebody's how they look at things and their perspective. And again, yeah, you're right. We, what as a community, and how do we want to shape that? And to me, that's really important. And and I just keep thinking to myself, if we can just get you in your first home, just get you in your first home. If that's really what you want, let's do what we can. Let's have these conversations. Let me follow you along. And if that takes a year, I'm still here. I'll still be here. And yeah, I just truly believe that the more that you give, the more that you get back. And that's just the way that I try to lead my business and run my business.
I have to ask, since you find that you're dealing with a lot of first-time home buyers, and the world, we're talking about conversations, but a lot of people they just text me, don't call me. Don't leave me a voice message. I'm not going to listen to it. So like that's for real though. Do you find that like you will throw them off if you're like, just pick up the phone and call me, I would like to have a conversation with you? Do you find that people are like, no?
Actually, and it's so funny that you say that because I don't. I try to make myself as accessible as possible. Like, don't get me wrong, I do have a family and I do have business hours. But I try to make myself as accessible as possible, whether that, if they're comfortable sending me a text message, that's fine. But I always try to say, okay, let's set up something. It doesn't have to be long or crazy. Either I can go there, we can do a Zoom call, video call, but let's just get this conversation going. And I've had really great success in that. And I get bookings or I get a text and I'm like, yeah, just, you know, give me a call on this time at this time. And I put it in my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, you know, I kind of live by that. But honestly, I haven't. And I've actually gone to a few people's homes and we've had a coffee and a great talk. And it's really wonderful. And it really does open up a lot of other things that you don't get. You don't hear their tone in their text message. You don't hear their, and sometimes what happens if that's happening too much, I'll say, how about I drop by? What's a good time for me to drop by? Like today, I'm heading over to another client's house today, and I'm going to drop some stuff off. And just because I knew that there was some stress that was happening through those text messages, and I'm like, I'm just going to come on over. And I'm finding that it's actually been very successful. People are not balking at that. And then when I see them, and then we just have these conversations, and they're wonderful, and we go off on something else, and I get to learn more about them, and they get to learn more about me, and yeah.
It's funny how that happens, eh? Like when you actually have a conversation with people instead of, you know, miscommunication is ridiculous these days with texts and emails and.
Yeah, like you see, you can't tell tone. No. You know, even if you throw an emoji, it doesn't always translate.
I do love my emojis, though. I do.
But emojis work. They do, because you think, oh, that's a happy face, or that's an exclamation point. Hi. Compared to just a period. It's weird how periods and text messages now are like, ooh, are they angry?
Yeah,
they
true.
put a period
a little
at the
smiley
end of
after.
their sentence.
They use proper grammar.
Exactly.
I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about, you know, what you're hearing from your kids, from your clients. You know, what are first-time home buyers looking for, and what is it that does, you know, keep them up at night? What is it that's stressing them out?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a few things that tend to keep them up. Just the simple fact of not passing that stress test. Right now, with mortgage rates as high as they are and having to save for that down payment and paying rent, because everybody's rents have gone up, and they're just really struggling with that. I don't have that extra money. I don't know what I can do. And so the interest rates are going up. And then we're also facing with, there's that price range right now that's that low, from like, let's say 150 to even 300, 350. They're just going like that. And they can't get in, and they can't even get their offer accepted. And it feels very defeating. And then we've also got how long it's been taking to even get their pre-approvals, and the steps that they have to get those pre-approvals, and all the documentation that they need for it. And I remember just buying my own homes, I don't even think pre-approval was a term that we even used. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. I didn't know if I was gonna be fine, but you know, and now it's one of the very first questions that are being asked, and it's taking time, and it's taking, you know, not only just time to gather all their documents, but then time that they have to wait to actually get an appointment with a lender. So those factors are, and just their overall debt ratio is big. It's a big one that comes up, and their credit score. So I really try and help them. I try to give them tips on how to do that, how to pay down their debt, whether it be the snowball effect or the avalanche effect, or little tips on, you know, maybe it's a subscription or a gym membership that you're not using anymore.
Right.
Just find that little bit of extra and really set your mind to it. And I'm a strong believer that if you set your mind to it, it will happen. And like I said, one of the girls that I'm working with, she's incredible. And she just said, I told myself, I'm giving myself a year and I'm going to do it. And I said, that is the absolute right mindset. And you're doing all the things that you need to do in order to make that happen. So right now, that would probably be the big thing that I'm hearing, is just the struggles of the debt ratio. With inflation as high as it is, and groceries going up, and gas going up, rent going up, and our wages aren't going up. Nope. Like, compared to 2019, I don't remember getting a 15% increase. So, you know, it's not easy, and it's kind of heartbreaking. But as my son, he's just convinced, no, I'll never own. And that's what he's saying. So I don't even know where to start. I don't even know who to call. I don't even know.
Your mom?
Right. But I get it. It's very overwhelming.
Well, and I think back to when I have only purchased one house. Like we made one purchase and that's the house. And yeah, if we didn't have, parents and aunts and uncles and people to touch base with, like, how do you get it? Like, if you don't have that support system of people who do know the industry, it is very overwhelming. And I can only imagine, like you say, all this extra paperwork and things. But what I caught there too was that timeline of like a year. Like, I think people probably don't have a realistic timeline of, okay, how much time maybe should I be setting aside in my life to make a goal like this happen? So I think that's an important conversation that I don't think I ever really thought of either at the time when we bought our house.
And because I think that for me, it's a long game for me. I'm not transactional based, and I don't need to I'm not looking for that. Oh, you have to put an offer in next week. There are going to be people who don't even know where to start. So I'm trying to almost attract the people who are saying, I don't even know if I've thought about buying a house, maybe in like 5 years, and then start that conversation now for steps that they can take so that in 5 years or in 3 years, they can actually make a confident decision about their finances and have that all kind of lined up. So sometimes, like I said, it's just about having a conversation before people even think that they want to buy a house.
I love it. I feel like it's almost like a guidance counselor for the first-time home buyer, right?
It really should
or the
be.
secondary. We're at the point where we're like, okay, well, when do we think we might move out of this house? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? And how soon do we have to start thinking of that? Because where are we going to go if we do it?
Exactly.
Like having that kind of, I'm like, we need like guidance counselors for real estate. I feel like that's what you are. We're going to just rebrand you right here now.
Right here, right now.
Right now. Let's go.
But even still, we're at like remortgaging right now. Like our term is up and interest rates are insanity. But they're talking about them going down in a couple of years. And then it was like, hey, we've been in the house for 10 years. Do we want to put some extra money on so we can redo the countertops or blah, blah, blah. Like all these questions that we also, even though, this is Jason and I's third house, we still have no idea. With the, why are these things not taught? Like to not just first-time home buyers, but like continuing education when it comes to being a homeowner. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm in my 7th or 8th house right now, and that's another question that comes up a lot. What can I do and put in my house that I can, if I'm going to stay for 5 years, but I want to get a return on it, what are some things that I can do? What are some steps that I can take? Who can I talk to? What, am I even do I even need to think about this right now? Maybe I only need a year. You know what I mean? And so there's all these questions that kind of come up, and if you're not going to stay, then if that's not your forever home, then there's a different answer. If it is your forever home, then do what you need to do and love your house and fill it with whatever you want to fill it with. But yeah, we aren't having necessarily those conversations. So those are the types of conversations that I love to have. And again, like I said, I feel that just the more that you give out and the more value that you give, it will come back. And I don't worry about that. I don't think in my head, okay, well, I've got to maybe reach out in 3 years and maybe they'll be my client. Maybe they won't, but maybe I help them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if someone's watching, listening, they want your help, how do they find you, Jennifer?
Oh my gosh, here's the thing. Oh gosh, I guess they're supposed to keep it real simple, but I can be found on Instagram, Jennifer Smith. Do I even know my handle? Jennifer Smith, NB Realtor. I'm also at jennifersmithco.ca is my website. I'm on Facebook, Jennifer Smith, New Brunswick Realtor. I try to leave my cards everywhere, as you guys said, with the candies.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, you can really get in touch with me just about anywhere. You can Google me. Hopefully you'll find me. But I'm here, and I love the conversations, and my goal is to just try and help as best I can.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a great time, and we hope you'll all join us again next week.